I Am the Specialist of the Strange, written by Dakota Frandsen, narrated by Douglas MacArthur, published by Bald and Bonkers Network, LLC. Section 10, Reflections. At the time and date I am writing this letter, it is almost 22 years since I first came face to face with beings not of the world. Measuring from this moment in time, it's just been over 16 years since I learned I wasn't not alone in this universe. 13 since I started to go public. But yet only 4 to truly acknowledge what I was searching for, and only a few months have passed since I found the one person I've been trying to find all along. I'm only 28 years old. This was from a conversation I had with my girlfriend, the confirmed envoy of my celestial wife, Ivina. It stood as a testimony to how much of my life was bound to the supernatural, how much of it encapsulated by trying to understand what was happening to me, but most importantly, trying to find a woman I feared would be a delusion of a lost mind. Thankfully, the odds of such a misdirection have been deemed to almost zero, at least from the perspective in which I find myself. Once, the UFO phenomenon was not something I paid much attention to, but as I've become more open to it, there are still elements that trouble me. This includes the public's ongoing disputes and the quasi-religious beliefs some groups have integrated into their views. A particularly distressing memory for me is how, during my school days, children would use the tale of David and Goliath to provoke me into conflicts because of my height. I've come to realize that I'm not the only one in my family to endure such experiences. There's a lot I've chosen not to disclose here, partly out of respect for the privacy of others, and partly because I was never good at documenting certain life events. There were things I desperately wanted to forget, to escape from, and to cut off all ties with. Surprisingly, engaging with the UFO phenomenon compelled me to confront these parts of my past. It was as if I was learning to shed habits from past lives. The experience was bizarre and overwhelming, and there are no words to fully describe it. For the first time, I felt as if I was turned inside out, compelled to confront the truth staring back at me in the mirror. There were times I wish I was still upstairs, as many of my friends/mentors refer to space. Up there I was a warrior and healer, a father to 4 beautiful children, a lucky bastard of a husband to one of the sexiest women I have ever seen. I had friends. There was mutual love and respect. As I was getting the finishing touches of this text together, Olivia had a baby girl of her own. I'm now a grandfather as well. Conflict still existed, but it was for purpose of morality rather than personal gain. Down here, it felt like I was hated by everyone, more of a ghost than the spirits in the night. People, self-conscious about their own stature, assumed that because I was bigger and taller than them, I constantly looked down on everyone. Being that now I stand at 6'7", it's only in the literal sense because mathematically speaking, only 0.01% of people in the United States are taller than me. I was judged by aspects of myself I couldn't change. My own mother and grandmother would threaten to play the victim card and involve police anytime I would be visibly upset just to assert dominance over me. I'll admit I can be an asshole at times, something I've been working on. But as much as I am equally grateful for all they have done to help me get as far as I have in life, having the people you're supposed to trust turn on you like that leaves a mark. Some will probably try to say that I shouldn't mention that aspect. Keep family drama in the family. In some regards, they may be right, but acknowledging what had happened and how my own mind managed to interpret it all is a step I have to take to ensure the wounds left over are healed. If by me stepping out and acknowledging these truths manages to help others undergoing similar ordeals, then at least I'd done some good. The suggestions of memory recalls also allowed certain events I repressed to surface, like my own father trying to sexually assault me, other family members making threats of sexual violence, or my stepmother possibly exposing me to LSD at a young age. I'm not going to waste these pages to air my grievances. Further editions of this text that may have updated information just might do that. This is to admit something to myself, perhaps set the record straight. This is to help others who struggled telling their own stories find inspiration to speak out. The extraordinary claims I have made of otherworldly encounters have seeded an assumption that I'm after fame and fortune, that I should allocate my time and resources to earthly matters rather than give attention to the frequent strangeness in my life. Others assumed I had made no attempts at a normal human life, without having asked any personal questions to determine such conclusions. I've come to the conclusion, and I'm more than happy to admit I could be proven wrong, that many have developed this notion that all they see plastered upon a two-dimensional surface is the entire story, which to me seems lazy. How can one possibly put everything they went through, their knowledge base, their experiences, their feelings, every asset of the human experience onto a flat surface? Put it all in a YouTube video, a TikTok video, or a tweet? Novels may be one such way, but there is only so much one can put into words. Relying on such examples to formulate the full individual, thoughts, feelings, ideas, wants, needs, desires, and all else that makes up the person. There are a couple things done in this text that might draw some question from the audience, especially considering how many came to know about me. My censoring of names was a choice to respect the privacy of others involved, as finding the time to reach out for proper permissions became a bit of a hassle. It was also a choice to follow my preference to work alone and avoid certain dramas, to focus more of my energy at the task at hand, to give more focus to where I felt I could do the most good. Like, as much as I shouldn't feel any real responsibility towards helping my sister care for her daughter, me not being a part of that little girl's life just feels wrong, especially with how attached I have become. The things I managed to do in this life are of my own accord, and while I will always remain eternally grateful for the aid others have provided along the way, I grow tired of the dismissal that certain conclusions are because they preached it. I am sovereign in my efforts, open to collaboration, but what you see from me is of my own doing and not from any sort of management. I chose to follow and study the works of certain individuals because by following their advice, even more extraordinary events transpired, convincing me of their legitimacy. Of all the tests I managed to compile with my research, they were the ones who passed beyond all expectation. It is only a byproduct of the conversations that transpired. I find the honor and privilege to call these people my friends. Indirectly, I have referenced their works, mainly in identifying the names of ET species, to give more specification to what sorts of entities I have come across, rather than the generic labels such as Pleiadians, Arcturians, etc., seen in most New Age circles. It just seemed more respectful in that way, and in no way is an attempt to try stealing the material of some of the most intelligent people I know. I came into this just trying to find my family, to understand what was going on, and maybe help others along the way. Have there been missteps? Absolutely. Somewhere it felt like I slammed my face hard into a brick wall. But these missteps are part of learning. And while I may not necessarily agree with how certain individuals may go about their business and how they present this information, I also had time to interact with them one enough to know their reason comes from the heart. If anything, that fact alone matters more than all else. I say this because while this segment is titled Reflections, there is a statement I wish to make. Just because you read this book, it does not mean you know the full story. I may, one day down the road, decide to re-release this text with even more entries added to it that might change the entire narrative. My story is far from over, and choosing to substitute human interaction by scoping what materials I released will only lead to further confusion. Believe me, a part of me still gets a bit twisted with everything that happens. My next new addition to the collection of books I've written to help make sense of my misadventures will be titled Frandsen Files Compendium, and it will go more in depth to the research side of various interactions. Theories, discoveries, incident analysis, you name it, hopefully I'll have it. My inclusion of artificial intelligence-generated images were strictly for illustrative purposes, though I do plan to revitalize some old ideas in order to create my own AI programs. The beginning stages of these are also underway. I may run my own company and obviously have bills to pay, but I am not seeking fame or fortune by my endeavors. Numbers on social media may provide a sense of credibility and unlock new avenues, and I'd be lying if I hadn't gotten overly excited when asked to do interviews and such. But that is not the legacy I want to leave. I do what I do because I enjoy it. I do what I do because it seemed like the best way to help others break out of their shell and share their stories so change could occur. I put myself out there in the ways I do because it seemed like the best way to reach others who convince themselves they are alone, something I know all too much about. But perhaps that is the main lesson in all this, that we are never truly alone and are capable of so much more, that someone, somewhere, in this infinite fragment of creation is always someone who feels for you, cares for you, wants you to thrive. The day the understanding of what it took, what it takes for these beings to be in this moment in time with us, will be the day mankind on this earth will truly have evolved. As for what potential lies in wait, that's for you to decide. Anyone can give you the information about what is out there in the universe, but what will you do with that information to help others? The only limitation is imagination.